Christians. My friend here says that we have a free will, whether we want to believe it or not, and that God already knows what we're going to choose, therefore knows who will be ordained. Now, let's start with the first part. We have a free will. No, we don't. Nowhere in the Bible is it taught that man has a free will. What we are taught is that Adam was made perfect and upright and holy. But we also know that Adam is probably the only creature that ever existed that did have a free will, although it was fallible. In other words, he could fall, as is evidence from what we already know, that he did, in fact, fall. So he was made perfect and upright, but he was also made without any guardrails to prevent him from sinning should the option be presented to him, which it was with the temptation of Satan in the garden. And Adam fell. Well, we need to understand and ask ourselves the question, what does it mean when Adam fell? The Bible tells us clearly that Adam, in the day that he ate from that tree, that he would die at that day. We know he didn't die physically at that moment, but we know that he died. And we know that he lost certain faculties. What did he lose? He lost the will to obey. He lost the freedom of will to obey God and to remain upright and to turn to an upright state. That is part of what was lost in the fall. For people who talk about man having a free will, to believe that you have a free will means to misunderstand and to misdiagnose the fall of Adam. Men are fallen creatures, and that means their wills are fallen. That is the principal aspect of what fell in the Garden of Eden. Man's will to serve God completely and irrevocably collapsed without any remedy for repair. At least not that was known at that time. But we all know that God did provide a remedy in the person of Jesus Christ. So I like how you like to lay this out there like it's some emphatic truth that people understand, that free will is something that men have whether we like it or not. It's not. We don't have a free will. Men do not have a free will. No man on earth has ever had a free will, with the exception potentially of Adam. Now, and if by the way you can prove it, please share that with all of us. And I'm asking anybody who believes that to share that with us, where this is taught by any apostle, any prophet, or anyone in the Bible. It's not there. So you're not going to find it. I know that, and you know that. Now, going on, you say that God already knows what we're going to choose and therefore knows who will be ordained. Now, we're talking about salvation. You're saying that God chooses those who are going to be ordained based on what he sees they're going to do. Listen to what you're saying. You're saying that the foreordination or the predestination or the ordination of sinners to salvation by God is based on what he sees you are going to do in the future. Which means that salvation is a matter of works and not a matter of grace, according to what you have just said. In other words, if God only chooses those, if the criteria for God to ordain you to salvation is based on what he sees you're going to do in the future, that means that your salvation is based on your works and not on his mercy, grace, or compassion. Salvation is all of grace. All of grace. And grace contemplates sin that has no remedy for it outside of God's grace and pardoning mercy. For God to look down the corridors of time and says, okay, look, I'm going to make my decision on whom I'm going to predestine to salvation based on what they do prior to me granting it to them. So the criteria, according to your assessment, the criteria of salvation, or the criteria for God's predestination of you to salvation, is based on what you're going to do before you get it. So in other words, in your words, predestination is the reward for what you're going to do in the future that God sees you're going to do. And that is heretical teaching, which is exactly what you are teaching. It's heretical. I'm not saying you're a heretic, but I am saying that you make a very common mistake that the majority of Christendom today makes. Christendom today. Because Christianity today, by and large, are not comprised of people who understand what they believe. They know what they believe, but they don't know why. I believe you know what you believe. But I don't believe, in this context especially, that you know why you believe what you believe. Because this right here is not smart talk for a Christian. And I'm not suggesting you're not smart. I'm just asking you to consider what you're saying. Consider my response to you. Think of what you said here. If God looks down the corridors of time and sees that you're going to choose Christ, and then chooses you or predestines you to salvation because of what he saw you were going to do, then that means your salvation is by works and based on works and not on grace. Whereby we are told that salvation is by grace through faith, not of works, lest any man should boast. We're also told in Galatians, as I have here on the screen, that no man shall be justified by any works of the law. Be provoked and be persuaded.